Hey, what's going on, guys? Pete with Auto Repair Tips. In this video, we'll work on a '06 Chevy Silverado. His only complaint was the ignition cylinder was stuck. The key wouldn't turn it. Make sure you watch this video all the way to the end so this simple little half-hour project doesn't turn into an all-day affair. But before we get into the video, if you want to learn tips and tricks on how to keep your car running smoothly from a mechanic who's been doing it for 40 years, then consider subscribing. Alright, let's get into the video. Alright guys, he had a Silverado truck similar to the one you see right here. And when I pull the cylinder out, this is a key cylinder right here. And this is an ignition switch. This is the electrical part that sends a signal to the rest of the car. This is your cylinder. This part's only job is so when you put the key in, it turns and allows this switch to send a signal. So I pulled the switch out, took it to a locksmith and told him this is an '06 model vehicle. This is not a chipped key and I wanted a new cylinder to match the one that I have. He called me 30 minutes later. I went back and picked it up, no problem. Put the cylinder in the vehicle, go to start it, it fires and cuts off. Fires and cuts off. So immediately I'm thinking, okay, it's either not getting the fuel or it's not getting the spark. So the first thing I did was I got a spark tester. This is a pretty cool tool to have. I'll put a link in the description where you can get one at a good deal. But right here, this hooks into the coil wire, this hooks to the plug, and when you crank it, you can see the spark goes from here to here. This screws out and you can measure the distance of the spark. It was getting great spark continuously. So the next thing I did, I said, let me check and make sure the fuel injectors are firing. So I got a Noid light. This is another good tool I have. I'll also put a link in the description. And when you crank the car, the light right here should flash continuously. So what we did was we started cranking it. That light would flash twice and cut off. So immediately I'm thinking there's a security problem, but this don't have a chipped key. So let me show you what I found. I did some research. On this truck, when there's no chipped key, it says right here, if you read it, if a failure in class 2 serial data line occurs before the ignition switch, the VCM and the PCM is not failed enabled. Following conditions will occur. The VCM and PCM will never receive a valid password in order to enable the fuel injectors. Alright, so let me show you what I had. This is the housing that's in the customer's car. This is a picture that's inside the housing. There's two metal pins, and when you put the ignition cylinder in the housing, if you look at the top one here, there's a plastic tab. One of them pins hit that tab, and that gives a correct signal to the computer saying the vehicle can start. The one on the bottom is the one he sold me. So when I pulled it out, brought it back to the guy and said, look man, you sold me the wrong one. He tells me that's the only one he had. He knew it would fit, so he figured he'd give it a try. And by him doing that, wasted a lot of my time. So I got a refund, went to the dealership, they had one on the shelf, purchased it, keyed it, stuck it in, car started up just fine. You know, one of the biggest things I can say is I'm a 40-year mechanic. Poor mistake on my half. I should have checked that part up against the old one before I put it in. Don't make that same mistake. When you're doing anything on your vehicle, if you have to rely on somebody else, make sure you check behind it. Alright guys, appreciate you watching. Catch you next time.